Hello everyone, welcome to another webinar by Port Jackson Securities. My name is Jacob Pritchard. I'm going to be your host today. I'm here with Michelle, the Managing Director of Opyl. Michelle, thanks for coming on board. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks very much for having me.
Not a problem, anytime. Now, obviously, there's been quite a bit of talk about you guys over the last 12 months. I know we've been in talk a little bit with you as well. And look, obviously, we've got a few people here that's obviously would like to know a little bit more about Opyl. So I guess for people who don't know, what is Opyl all about?
Yeah, thanks very much and welcome, and thanks for everyone that's taken the time to listen today. So Opyl is solving two problems in the market, and one is around clinical trial recruitment and the other one is around clinical trial design. So we're working in the healthcare market in a very high growth area, and we work at the intersection of social media, artificial intelligence and clinical trials. And so we're early stage. We've been going about 2 years, and we've got 2 AI platforms that we've built during COVID, during lockdown, and one of them's already generating revenue.
Lovely, lovely, great to hear. Obviously, after the year that we've had, it's always great to hear obviously new breakthroughs coming through. So I guess coming into this company as a new shareholder, hypothetically, what do you think that we should pay close attention to, and also I guess what can we also expect investing in a company like Opyl?
I think there's 2 really big drivers that shareholders should look at the moment, and one is around the environment around clinical trials. So during COVID, and now as we're coming sort of hopefully towards the end of COVID, the global population is very aware of clinical trials. So we've heard this language around clinical trials associated with the vaccines. So clinical trial awareness and clinical trial literacy or education is one of the biggest barriers to getting participants into clinical trials. So COVID has really helped us in that. So I feel that we're in the right place at the right time. So that's a bit of a driver, and also just the amount of growth that's happening in the clinical trials market, that's a significant opportunity. The other one is now clinical trial recruitment's always been a problem since clinical trials started sort of, way back in the 1950s. And so we're in a position now where we can use artificial intelligence and particularly social media and the algorithms around search engine marketing and search engine optimization to really get clinical trial opportunities onto people's Facebook feeds. So in many ways, we're working, I guess, as one of those companies that can really leverage another channel like Facebook to be able to create a service that can genuinely accelerate and change the way things are done in clinical trials. So I think in many ways, the advantage for shareholders is we're in the right place at the right time, and one of the few businesses that are actually really accelerating and being advantaged by COVID, but also being able to now use an existing and a fairly well-established platform as social media to give patients that have the digital skills to go researching, finding, and then potentially clicking and self-selecting through to a clinical trial.
For sure. No, that's great. And I think as a shareholder as well, to hear that a new product is obviously generating revenue in arguably probably one of the toughest business years that we've had in the last 12 months. Touching a bit on that, I guess over the last 12 months, businesses have had to be quite nimble, and obviously we've seen you guys do that as well. Do you feel that the environments that we're experiencing was really good for gaining exposure for your business and I guess clientele as well?
Yeah, look, it has. It's been really interesting. I'm really proud of the fact that we've been able to build this during lockdown. So we started to shift and start to build this as an enterprise, a scalable model. The build began probably around about April during last year's lockdown in Melbourne. So just as we all got sent home, we were about to begin the build. But really working from home didn't really change that. So if anything, we adapted to it pretty fast. I mean, there's always challenges, but I think we did that quite well. Considering the speed that we did the build, and then the whole platform launched initially, all the data was live in March, and then we actually did a full launch in May at International Clinical Trials Day in the middle of May. And then within weeks, we were starting to generate revenue. So that's pretty, I think, a pretty rapid iteration of moving from what was a consulting model, so we proved out the concept because we were doing it as a consulting model, and then to go into a scalable enterprise model really in 12 months and generating revenue within 18 months. So I've been pretty pleased with that, and I think that's great. What we're seeing now week on week is growth of data, so more and more patients signing up to our platform, but also more customers signing on, which is bringing in that very early and really critical revenue. But we've also been able to do it in a way that we're not burning tons of cash. So it's been done, pretty parsimoniously in that we've been clever with the cash that we're using, obviously leveraging R&D tax incentives, but the purpose and the rationale and the design of our build has been to make sure we get a minimum viable product out there as quickly as possible in an agile way, so as we can unlock that early revenue and continue to iterate the platform over the next 9 to 12 to 18 months.
That's perfect. And I think obviously when some companies are in the early stage, getting like you mentioned, a minimum viable product gives you a lot of mobility, to see sometimes like obviously how the market takes it, whether it's working or not. And another benefit for shareholders, as you said, you're bringing revenue in straight away. So that's really refreshing to hear, I think. And obviously a lot of shareholders probably watching, not about Opyl, but about other businesses, have probably seen that they've talked about this amazing product, but it's taken years and years and years to come out, which, hurts a lot of people in the end. But no, really, really pleased to hear that, which is good. Look, I definitely want to hear about this new platform. I'm sure people watching do, Opin as well. I think you might have touched on it a little bit before, but how is Opyl currently solving the issue around recruitment and in the clinical trial space at the moment?
Yeah, let me just explain maybe for those people that aren't as familiar with how clinical trial recruitment works. So there's 3 phases of a clinical trial generally, phase 1, 2, and 3, in which humans are involved. 1 is about safety, 2 is about efficacy, and 3 is about extending the efficacy from there. So phase 1 is healthy volunteers, but it's actually quite hard to get patients or participants with a particular disease into phase 2 and phase 3. And just reiterating that these patients don't get paid to do a clinical trial, whereas healthy volunteers do. So you've really got to, I guess, touch on different drivers and motivators for patients to participate in clinical trials. So at the moment, there's a really big, significant problem in getting participation from patients, and that is in the field of cancer, only about 2 to 3% of cancer patients participate in a clinical trial. And it's mostly because they don't get invited, they don't know about it. And then if they are introduced to it by their doctor, they're really unsure and they're really not certain that this is for them. So you get a really high rejection rate even when a doctor introduces it. But that's the point there. The doctor is the bottleneck. So for anybody that, the theory of the firm, and particularly in services firms and manufacturing firms, any kind of bottleneck then blows out the whole value chain after that. And this is why the cost of drugs, that's why drug development is so expensive, because clinical trials are really expensive. So clinical trials make up about 40% of a new drug or device's budget. And then a big chunk of that 40%, probably about 30% or even more, is around patient recruitment. That's how big a problem it is. So more than 85% of clinical trials fail to recruit on time and on budget, and up to about 11% of trials fail to enroll a single patient. Now that's a huge amount of money lost. So one of the value propositions for Opyl is we're going to save hundreds of millions of dollars from the drug development or device development pathway. But when you cause a real bottleneck around recruiting a patient into a trial, nothing else can happen until you get those patients in a trial. So the unfortunate fact is every day that is delayed costs the company in a number of ways, costs them money, because that could be the product on market making money. But it also costs the business in terms of the patient not getting access to that new therapy. So the ultimate person who pays is us, the patient. And so when we solve this problem around recruitment, we take away that bottleneck, and really clinical trials could run much faster certainly more cost effective, and certainly be more inclusive. I mean, what people don't understand is when patients get into a clinical trial, they normally get better care than what they're currently getting. So you get on one hand people going, oh, I don't want to be some, guinea pig, which gives me the horrors when people say that. Now I've just said it publicly, but the idea of I don't want to be somebody's guinea pig. But the actual reality is when patients access a clinical trial, they generally get access to innovative medicines free of charge. They do generally get better quality care than what they're currently getting, but also they have the opportunity to participate in helping to bring new drugs and devices to market, which there's a real, a lovely feeling around altruism here, but mostly the patient benefits in a really big way if they get involved in clinical trials. So, our vision is to see more clinical trials succeed and the cost of clinical development come down and patients get better quality care.
Yeah, wow. No, I think people watching definitely would have paid close attention to a few of those points. And I think when you look a little bit further, how important obviously Opyl's mission is here, and to obviously help with, a lot of shareholders probably have other biotech investments in their portfolio, and if you guys do succeed, it's a benefit for the whole industry, which obviously people know through everything that they've seen over the years in terms of delays. So no, that's incredible. That's incredible. So okay, now talking about Opin, what's some of the key details do you think we should be aware of with the new platform?
Yeah, so Opin is the name of the clinical trial recruitment platform that we've built. So it's got its own brand and it's got its own marketing. And the reason why we chose the word open is because it's really about that marketing message of opening up new opportunities to patients, but also opening up that bottleneck and getting better efficiency out of the research and development system that we've got. So Opin, if you Google it, it is www.opin.ai. So you can find it just by looking. Anybody listening today can sign up as a patient. But where this is a different way of doing it is that most of the competitors in the space, and it is a very, very competitive space because it's growing quite rapidly, the clinical trial recruitment services market. So in this space, we have about 150 competitors, but it's important to understand how we do it different to our competitors. So a lot of the competitors, particularly the competitors that have come on market after about 2014, of which that's probably about 30%, a lot of these companies are small, and a lot of those companies see this as a data play, and it's like data as a platform. So the companies that win in the recruitment stakes, they win on a couple of fronts, and this is how we're competing. So it's about who can capture the most patient data and how big that data lake is. Then the next competitive position that any company has to be in, and we're in that, is about optimizing the use of social media to get patients to self-select and make sure these messages get in front of people who show a genuine interest. And this is where the algorithm of Facebook works in our favor. And I like to say, it's working the algorithm for good. The second way is to have an AI engine inside the database and inside the platform that can go and select patients matching to a clinical trial's inclusion criteria, and we've got that. And then the fourth and final thing that a company has to do, and this is where I think we do a great job, is keeping the data alive. So as inventory, or if you think about patient data as something that sits on a shelf, it's an asset inside our business. But I have to keep that data alive. I have to keep it enriched and moving and continuing to grow. So one of the key things we do inside Opin that not many of our competitors do is we ask patient for permission to keep sending them messages, and we'll keep asking them questions about their disease. So we start to really enrich our data set, and that is if the patient gives us their data with consent and then they're happy to keep answering our questions, we end up with a really rich understanding of the patient's experience of their disease, and then we can use our AI to go in and select those patients to match up to a trial that's looking for those patients. Where we're very different at Opin, and this is a value opportunity that I've seen in no other competitor, is that the original group that are part of the business at Opyl are extremely skilled in social media and permission marketing and interruption marketing. So this is the new generation of precision marketing using digital tools. So we've got a team of 9 in the business, and most of them have a clinical background, but all of them have postgraduate degrees in digital marketing or data analysis and social media, optimization. So we've got a team in the business that are experts in this permission marketing space. Now, all of our competitors, from what I can see, and happy to be proven wrong here, but I reckon I'm not, all of our competitors that I can see in the space don't have that. They put this sort of role out to agencies, or they'll maybe recruit 1 or 2, but they don't actually make marketing and search engine optimization one of their core, value adds. For me, I think it's a game changer. I think this is how we do things really different. And inside our platform, we're using natural language processing, which is a field of AI, to offer those key questions to patients that will either include them into the trial or exclude them into the trial. So in our platform, patients can see every registered clinical trial in the world. So that's if they're registered with any of the government regulators, and they're able to see which locations those trials are held in. So if you say, I'm in Sydney and I'm prepared to travel 150 kilometres, the search in our platform will give you all of the clinical trials in the area that you're interested in within your geographic location. But if you're someone who has unlimited resources, or that you're prepared to put every resource you've got to get into a clinical trial, because you may have a very rare disease, or it could be an end-stage disease, a fatal disease, then you can see every clinical trial in the whole world. And patients want this degree of autonomy now. This is the way digital patients are behaving. So in our platform, we've tried to build those key value adds that we think will drive a better business outcome in terms of revenue, but a significantly better service outcome in terms of our customers and our patient users.
Wow. No, I think another good point for people watching, listening, and you spoke about that really well, Michelle, is when you mentioned before about being in the right place at the right time, you guys are really focused digitally at the moment. And as our population obviously gets older, but it is a new generation that is getting older, tech savviness is obviously increasing. So yeah, it's a perfect time to position yourself and obviously provide what you guys are doing at the moment. So no, that's great. Now, I guess, do you have some points, I guess, about the clinical trial recruitment market in general that you can mention for the people watching?
Yeah, I think this is important to understand so people can see what the opportunity is for us, and we'll give you some sense around expectations around revenue too. So just to, again, sort of highlight the fact that we're still very much forecasting and trying to understand what that revenue looks like, and we've not actually directly released it to the market other than but the global market is about $60 billion Australian. In terms of the clinical trial services recruitment sits, it's worth probably about $5 billion, but it's expected to double by 2030. So that's the amount of growth we're seeing in clinical trials. Right now, there's a demand for probably, I think it's about 15 million patients to clinical trials around the world. Again, by 2030, that's expected to be 27 million patients needed into clinical trials. So when you look at how that's sort of set up around the world, about 70% of all clinical trials are run out of the US, and the rest is the rest of world. So APAC and the MENA region, and including China in that, we make up probably about 7% of that total. But the APAC region has one of the fastest growing CAGRs, compound annual growth rate, in that time. So it's growing at around about 6 to 7% in the APAC region. it's been really interesting to watch, particularly how Australia has responded to clinical trials during COVID. So just about everywhere around the world, we saw clinical trials slow down because of COVID, because we didn't want to risk patients coming into hospitals to be part of a clinical trial. So if you were on a clinical trial, it kept on going. But if you were recruiting to a trial, it slowed right down. So as lockdowns ease and the world gets vaccinated, we're seeing clinical trials reawaken and opening up. So at the moment, naturally, it's been slower in Australia because we've had a suppression approach to COVID, but also now that our population's fairly rapidly getting vaccinated and we're starting to open up clinical trials again, the amount of inquiries we're getting through is almost choking us, which is really great. So we're sort of seeing now that a lot of companies are saying, all right, now we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. This whole lockdown business is going to start easing any day now. We need to get going. But we're also going to see in the market a lot of people, particularly with cancers and cardiovascular disease, that have put off their diagnosis because of lockdowns, suddenly they're going to increase over time. So that's great news, sadly, for the clinical trial industry, because there's going to be a lot more eligible patients. But it's about how do we get out to those patients? And if patients aren't moving around downtown in Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane and Adelaide and Perth, how do we get in touch with these patients? What we saw during COVID was about 30 to 40% increase in the use of social media, and particularly looking for health conditions. Where we are, we're looking at focusing on the APAC market. So first of all, be a master in your own backyard. I think that actually is important. But what we're looking at the moment is particularly outside Australia in APAC. So we've been evaluating the market in particularly South Korea, which is a really strong clinical trial sector, really outstanding sector. Singapore is another one. So there are very few competitors in those markets. In Australia right now, there's probably about 6 of us that are competing, but I don't think there's anybody in our contemporaries here in Australia that's competing just for the Australian market. But one of the very first clinical trial recruitment opportunities that we picked up from a revenue generating client was recruiting patients in other economies. So some of our first recruitment was done in Melbourne. The second and third clinical trial that we're recruiting for, one of them's going to be in Chile, and so South America, and then another one's going to be in Malaysia and probably the Philippines. So straight away, positioning the company and particularly the platform to be able to pick up recruitment opportunities, not just in Australia, as wide as possible. We're lucky in the business. Many of us in the leadership team have many, many years of experience in the clinical trial sector, as well as the biotech and life sciences sector. So of course, we're going to leverage our own professional networks. We're going to leverage the hell out of them. Wherever we can pick up revenue generating clients, we will. But, we're under no illusion that most of our professional network is in Australia. The real market to crack here is Europe and the US. But there's a lot of value in the APAC and the MENA region. And I think to be a master in those regions is probably a really great stepping stone to then obviously trying to get as much traction as we can in those big markets. But the winner in the future around clinical trial recruitment is going to be those platforms that can really harness and implement all of the AI technologies that are around matching, predictability, being able to foresee and add those extra services that can improve the efficiency around clinical trials. And that's why we've got our second platform, which is TrialKey.
Lovely, lovely. No, that's the thing I like most about a few of the points that you've mentioned, Michelle, and obviously for people at home watching, is a lot of businesses obviously used the last 12 months as, how can we survive? How can we continue? It appears you guys have almost turned it into an advantage. How can we leverage this as much as possible? Obviously, you mentioned about the social media. You saw it increase. You saw that as an opportunity. And while while we're obviously planning on opening up in the future, you guys are also exploring how to make it better than it was before. So in terms of evaluating, that's really good to hear, which is nice. And I guess it's sort of you know, we've made probably a lot of good points, but I guess I'll make a mention. And over the last 12 months, you know, you yourself, Michelle, what do you feel personally most accomplished about the business or in general?
Yeah, we're a business that we've been revenue generating for some time. So the core of our business, which is that clinical team that really understand permission marketing, we've been working as a consulting model to prove the concept around clinical trial recruitment, and also the concept of really listening to social media so as we can use AI to really target patients, to really understand where they are and what they're doing. So I'm actually really proud of the fact that in really just over 2 years, not only have we pivoted and proven out a concept and started to build a platform, but we actually got it to market. And like you said before, Jacob, it's so true that I've spent years investing in the biotech sector. It's 25 years of my life has been working around drug development. And I often jokingly say to people that I've never worked in a biotech company that's actually got a product to market. That I've worked around a lot of clinical trials and none of them have ended up with a product on market, but that's normal in the industry. But I guess I'm just, really proud of the fact that we've been able to build this platform and get it up into a revenue generating position. You know, the greatest driver for me of success is seeing that revenue in the company's bank account at the end of each quarter. And the team know this well, that you know, whenever we get into our work in progress meetings each week, it's like, show me what are the biggest trials, which are the ones that we can get into right now. You know, get a contract in front of them. So I've got this team that I think are pretty extraordinary as well. So they're really excited about how their roles are pivoting now towards Opin and that clinical trial recruitment sort of piece. I'm also really proud of 2 members of the board that joined us during the lockdown period. One was Mark Zerson. So Mark is an extraordinary strategist when it comes to scaling technology companies. He's had a lot of experience with other listed companies. He's been a CFO, but he's had experience with Cochlear and other quite big global life science firms. And he's gold. He's absolutely fantastic in being that really great sounding board for me, because we've got to crack scale. We can't just do this as a local platform. It needs to be really scalable on a global stage. But the other one who's been tremendous that joined the board just recently is Dr. Megan Robertson. So Megan's the Chief Research Officer for St Vincent's Health Australia. So one of the biggest, you know, Catholic Health Australia is an enormous clinical trial provider. But she spent all of her years in the clinical trials sector around governance, around design, and she's one of those very rare people in the biotech sector worldwide that really sees the application of artificial intelligence in improving clinical trial efficiency. So I've sort of dragged her into social media and permission marketing as well. But Megan's a huge catch because she's that person on the board that can really see that scalable benefit, but also the fact of how we're doing it different and how we can unlock that bottleneck around the doctor, and how we can empower patients to be more part of this. But she also understands the revenue that can be unlocked from this sector, and not just the revenue for us, but how we can free up revenue and financial investments that other people make that are really being wasted in really inefficient systems. And so it's really exciting to have the 2 of them on the board, and our board are very hands-on. They're not like the usual boards that I've worked with through biotech companies. This board is very, very hands-on, and yeah, I feel very grateful. I think this is one of the most exciting teams that I've ever worked in.
No, for sure, and as you should. Like, it's definitely an incredible achievement that you guys have been doing, and I think what shareholders really like to hear as well, obviously your passion and enthusiasm, obviously for revenue coming in, because obviously shareholders want to see the product come to market and, you know, do great things. But it's really good to hear that you're not dancing around the question in terms of where you guys are going, what you guys are trying to do. So that's really encouraging for shareholders, and especially in terms of you identifying, obviously having good people around you, really gives you guys a really good platform moving forward. So I know we're definitely really excited for the next 12 months to see what happens, and obviously furthermore from that. I guess not to give away too much information, but is there anything in particular you're really excited for over the next 12 months, other than opening up in Australia, of course? But
Yeah. And I'm really glad you said that too. The last thing we want to do is dance around revenue, and that is the thing that keeps me up at night. That this, the technology graveyard is full of good ideas that work really, really well, but if you can't market them, they're rubbish. And if they can't generate the revenue, everybody's disappointed. So, I'm very, very well aware of that. I come from an entrepreneurial family. My father had his own business and very, very successful engineering business, and that's probably one of those things he drilled into us as kids is, there's a graveyard of good ideas out there, Michelle, but you just get one to work and make your money, and then the world is a good place. So that sort of drives my philosophy around seeing this work. In the early days, I really want to be measured, first of all, on the number of patients in the platform, because it's capturing that data that will make everything worthwhile. So if we can't capture that data up front, we've got no inventory on the shelf. The other thing is it's about getting efficiency around our interruption and permission marketing. So if we can do the search engine optimization thing really, really well, we'll win. We'll outgun everybody on the stage. The other thing I'm really excited about is the building out of our team. So right now we're recruiting for software engineers and front and back end developers to come into the business. We've done a lot of the development with consultants outside the business, and it's critical to our IP that this is now brought in-house and that we start to develop more and more in-house. But also it's having those developers sitting right beside me and being able to say, no, not that, this. So I'm really looking forward to being back face to face with some of these engineers, but also to really improve the user experience on the platform. It is still an MVP, so there's a lot of things about the user experience that I really want to change, but also unlocking some of those AI efficiency technologies in the platform. I think the more time I spend with the data scientists, the more of a data nerd I become, because it's now starting to really understand what are the tools of the trade, and this trade is a really exciting trade. So I think there's a lot more growth we can build into the platform. There's a lot more features and a lot more richness about really unlocking and leveraging that data. And that's the beauty, that once we pick up this data and we've got the right sort of engineering team around us, I can see what the commercial opportunity is. I just need somebody in the team, a few people around me that can say, yeah, we could do this, we could do this, this, and this. So I'm kind of really excited to be back face to face, because I think we'll be able to move a lot faster. But yeah, it's a really satisfying thing to start to see that revenue flow and start to understand that the market realizes, just like I have, just how much value these kind of platforms can bring.
For sure. No, the next 12 months are definitely going to be very excited. We're definitely going to be keeping in touch as we have been. And I'm just to summarize everything there, obviously quite a few good points here, a really good problem that you guys are trying to solve. Last 12 months obviously been tough for many businesses, but you guys are really adapting quite well, so that's exciting. You're developing great people around you, which is awesome. And obviously moving forward as well, you're really focused on revenue. So shareholders, I'm sure, I'm going to be really excited, and prospective investors. And further to that, we're going to be answering questions. I know if anyone has any questions, there is direct contacts that can be reached out to Michelle. If you wanted to ask any questions from Michelle directly, feel free to go to inquiries@portjacksonsecurities.com. We'll definitely pass it on, and I'm sure Michelle will be really happy to answer those questions. But that basically summarizes everything. Thank you very much for coming today, Michelle, and describing everything about Opyl for us. I know we're excited, and we really look forward to hearing more over the next 12 months. That's for sure.
That's great. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for everyone for making the time to sit back and listen.
No, not a problem. All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone, again, my name was Jacob. This is Michelle, and the Managing Director of Opyl. Thanks, guys, for everyone attending. We look forward to seeing you at the next one. See you later.